Hello, 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 hello. Let me put the light on. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome to my live. My name is Chef Natalie, founder of ElegantlyRaw Cuisine, and tonight it's a cold night. I hope you're staying warm out there. I don't know, man. This is horrible weather. I just can't believe how cold it is. Crazy cold. Anyway, I'm happy I'm inside and I hope you are. Tonight is our day 20 of our 21 days of elegantly raw breakfast recipes. We are about to the end of our program and I hope you have tried my recipes and I hope if you like them, let me know. If you don't like them, let me know. And if you have suggestions, let me know. I am so okay with some constructive feedback. So tonight it's cold, so I felt to do something a little bit comforting and warm and earthy, so I'm thinking about what I have in my fridge because I haven't been outside since Sunday, unfortunately. I haven't been outside since Sunday. So I have cauliflower in my fridge. I had some pine nuts, and I have some rosemary from my garden. So I said, why not a warm, creamy cauliflower rosemary soup? How does that sound? It's aromatic, it's earthy, it's creamy, and it's not going to be cold. It is going to be a warm, raw soup. When I say warm, we are not boiling it and we are not using boiling water. We are using warm water. Maybe like to the baby's touch or between the 99 and 115 degrees. If you warm it in your dehydrator, about that temperature. If you warm the water in your dehydrator, about that temperature. Alternatively, you can use room temperature water and then warm the soup in your dehydrator. So you have many choices so that you have something nice and warming on your chest with the enzymes intact and everything else that's God put in that vegetable intact for the healing of your body. So we here at Elegantly Raw love to use food as medicine. And we also like to enjoy our food as well. Sometimes we can get all kind of fancy and make some fancy dishes, but we also like to keep it simple. And tonight this dish is very simple, right? So let's dig right in and I'll tell you what we're doing tonight. So for this recipe, we need some fresh cauliflower. We're gonna start with about 2 cups of raw cauliflower. I chopped it up and I dropped it in my measuring cup. We're gonna have a date just in case we need to sort of balance the flavors and there with a little sweetness. We never know what flavors we get with raw foods because remember, raw foods doesn't come in a can, right? It is from nature. So my cauliflower that I have here may not be the same flavor profile with the cauliflower that you have there. So we need to know how to balance flavors in raw foods. So I just have a date on hand in case we need to drop a date in the recipe. We have some fresh rosemary from my garden, well, dried now. And I just crushed it a little bit, about 2 teaspoons. We may not need all of it. It really depends on how strong you want your rosemary soup to taste. And then I have some lemons. I'm supposed to have lemons, but I didn't go to the store. So I have limes. But the best thing to use would be lemons. Maybe like juice from half of one lemon. Maybe like a tablespoon to 2 tablespoons, depending on how you want to balance that flavor. Some garlic. I like lots of garlic, but we're going to use about 1 to 2 cloves in there. Some salt for taste. And then I'm using about 2 ounces of soaked and rinsed pine nuts for that creaminess. And I had a few extra almonds and I just tossed it in there too. I didn't want to waste it. So, and then we have some warm water that's sitting on the stove that we're going to use. All right. So that's all we need for this recipe. Feel free to add anything else that you like. So I'm going to put my gloves on. And if you haven't called your friend, if you still have to go get your paper, your pens, please go get them so that you can write down all the little blessings I have in store for you tonight. But most important, like and share with a friend. Like and share the page, the YouTube page. All right, so let's begin with cleaning the cauliflower, right? So after you kind of wash your cauliflower out with maybe some apple cider vinegar or hydrogen peroxide, whatever you wash your vegetables with, I like to put it through like a warm bath so that it will kill any extra parasites that might be in there. But it also acts, the warm water with some salt also acts as a way to start to soften up the cauliflower, the fibers in the cauliflower, and start to break down the cauliflower. So I'm just going to put enough warm water with some salt just to cover the cauliflower. Remember, it's not boiling, right? But baby's bouncy. Baby's bouncy. Right? So I'm just going to add a little bit of salt. I'm going to start with about a teaspoon. And we'll just let that sit for a little bit while we make the cream for the cauliflower soup. So I'm just going to stir that around. Let it sit for a little bit. All right, so let's start with the cream. I'm going to begin with the cream. Everything I've washed, in case you're wondering. So we'll start with putting the nut in there. We're just going to blend this until it gets nice and creamy. Right? And we'll start with about a cup of warm water, because remember, we're going to make a nice warm soup. And we don't want to kill the enzymes, so we don't want the soup to be very hot. So 1 cup of water. We may need more, so I'm just going to put one on the side, so we'll have it. Because we want it nice and creamy, so it's best to begin with less water and add than too much water, and we can't take it subtract, all right? So 1 cup of water there. So now we're going to add the garlic and anything that needs to be blended smooth in there. We're going to add that in there. So I'm going to crush about, now you see these gloves? I don't like them. See, they're everywhere. So my friends, this is all my food. This is going to annoy me. So we'll take that off. So I'm not giving this to you or the neighbors. So don't worry about me not using a glove. And I will probably move faster without the glove. That's a new glove that I found in my drawer. Sort of, all right, so I'm putting in about 3 small cloves of garlic. Maybe that's about 1 huge clove together. I'm going to put that 1 date in there that I told you about. And I also want to put 1/4 of an onion, not a lot, just for flavor, right? Because I don't want to kill the garlic. All right. And we're going to use a little lemon juice. So let's cut this up. These limes, I found in my refrigerator. But as I said, I didn't go out. I haven't been out all weekend because of the snow. So I'm using what I have, okay? So now I'm just going to squeeze. See if I can get some juice out of these little things. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to keep the limes, for when we are working with the cauliflower. And that way I don't have to use up all my lemons. All right. They're very difficult to squeeze, these little tiny ones. So maybe if you're using the lemons, you're using like the juice of, start with the juice of half of a huge lemon. You may need the whole thing, but start with half so that you can gauge the flavor, all right? I'm going to remove the seeds and all of that kind of stuff. All right, so we have the lemon here, right? All right, let's blend this up. We'll add the salt last as well to make sure everything stays okay. So let's blend this. I think this is nice and creamy, our base for our soup, and it feels nice and warm. Not hot, but warm, right? With raw foods, the goal is not to eat anything cold. All raw foods, especially elegantly raw foods, it's best to eat them at room temperature, okay? Because you don't want to eat anything too cold, anything too hot. Of course, sometimes we have some ice cream, but we don't eat ice cream every day. Of course, we have a cold dessert now and again, but you shouldn't do it every day because cold food does slow down your digestion, all right? And we don't want to constantly impede digestion. All right, so we have this mixed up, and I feel as though I should try and taste it and let you know how it tastes. We're not right now because you know what? There's no salt in there. So let's work on the cauliflower now for now. All right, I need the gloves for the cauliflower after I said so many bad things about the glove. So I'm sorry, gloves. We need you for the cauliflower. Okay. All right, the bowl is back. So these have been soaking for a while. The longer you could soak them is fine, it's good. I want to get between the florets and make sure it's all washed out properly. And I'm going to drain it out. Oops. And then I'm going to add a little bit more for my second rinse. Again, I'm just going to rinse it up in there. And then I'm going to strain it. Make sure you get as much water out as possible there. All right. All right, if you can and you see some huge florets, you can just give it a quick chop to just cut them in smaller pieces. And if you're new to my channel, the reason why we don't want to boil the cauliflower or cook it in boiling water is that the cauliflower has an enzyme in there called myronase, if I got that correctly. And that enzyme activates the bioactive agent that tells your body or signals your detoxification pathways. So if you cook the cauliflower or any cruciferous vegetable, that signaling enzyme is destroyed and your body doesn't get the signal it needs to use the food, to use the sulforaphane in this food to detox your body. So it's very important that we don't boil and cook cruciferous vegetables, but we can eat them raw, and we can prepare them in a way that will break down the fibrous the fibrous cells in the cauliflower. All right. So let's see if we can add a little bit of lemon juice, a little bit of salt, maybe a 1/4 teaspoon. And in order to help break down the cauliflower, we want to massage it. And this is one of the techniques that we use in raw foods, is that we cut the cauliflower up into small pieces and we massage the cauliflower. All right. Yeah, and this will take a little while, and you will want to massage it until it's really broken down and it feels almost cooked-like. So it's best to cut the cauliflower in smaller pieces, a lot smaller than I just cut them up in here. Right? So massaging is one of the food preparation techniques in raw living food, at least in my raw living foods program. So massaging is one thing you must do in order to help the food to break down. You can use your both hands if you want to be faster. It's really just a squeeze and massage kind of technique. And if you know you're going to make this the next day, you can just squeeze and massage and leave it overnight, and then the next day it will be very soft. Okay? So this is already starting to get nice and soft. Right? Breaking down the fibers in the cauliflower will help with better digestion and for you to be able to make the nutrients more bioavailable. All right? If you are wondering if you should eat cauliflower because you have thyroid issues, research shows that the goitrogens in cauliflower only becomes a problem when you have low iodine and a thyroid that's not working optimally. So if you are worrying about goitrogens and you have sufficient iodine levels, you can add some sort of iodine-rich ingredient to this dish to help buffer the effects of the goitrogens. Like I do have there my Irish moss, and I can add a tablespoon in the soup. And the iodine in that will help buffer the effects of the goitrogens. Do you get what I'm saying? So if you know you have thyroid problems, because if you eat raw cauliflower, the goitrogens would slow down your thyroid, right? If you are hypothyroid, if you have a hypothyroid problem. But if you have a hyperthyroid problem, then you want to eat the raw cauliflower because you want your thyroid to slow down a little bit. All right. Okay, so I think this is broken down enough, and I can take off this glove here. And I'm just going to reach for my Irish moss because I'm going to use that as my buffering agent for the goitrogens, you know. So I'm just going to use my Irish moss here a little bit and use it as a buffering agent for the goitrogens. And I'm going to put about a tablespoon in my soup. And, you know, Irish moss is filled with so many minerals, and it also packed with iron. So if you're having iron issues, add Irish moss or sea moss, better known as sea moss in Trinidad and the other Caribbean countries. All right, so now that I have my soup is still warm, I'm going to add the cauliflower a little at a time because I want it to be creamy and I don't have enough. I just want to make sure I have a nice balance here and not put too much. All right, so we may not need all of this based on how much cream I have put in this jug. All right, so let's go. We're not doing all at one time. We're just going to do a little bit at a time. Let's use half the recipe. And then blend that up. Well, I might as well use all. blend that up and see how we're looking, and then we can add the rest, okay? Looking good, looking good, looking good. You know what? I'm gonna leave the rest to put it in the soup because I still want to have some chunks to chew. So this, I left like maybe 1/4 cup in here. So I'm just gonna add that to the soup so I have some chunkiness. So I think this looks really good. So now we need to add in, let me see if it all blended up. Yes, it's very nice and creamy. If you see, very creamy. I think it needs a little bit more blending, and I'll taste it and add a little bit more. Let me add about 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Let's start with that. 1/4 teaspoon of salt. See how that goes. I just want to blend it a little bit more. It is so creamy, you wouldn't believe. Now, I would put this in my dehydrator and let it get nice and warm. That's what I would do. So let's just give it one more. All right, so this looks yummy, yummy, yummy. Now we're gonna taste it, and then once it tastes really good, then we'll add in the rosemary and just pulse it in because I don't want the rosemary to turn the soup green. Or sometimes if you over blend the rosemary, it would just get that bitter taste. You just want the aromatics to come out, but still taste very good. I wouldn't have it any better way. You get like the little bit of onion, but not powerful. Garlic. I probably would add a little bit of more of the lemon juice in there to get a little more kick. But it tastes so good. And then I'm just going to sprinkle in my rosemary now. And we're going to pulse it, right? Make sure your rosemary is crushed up. And I don't even think I'm using the 2 teaspoons, maybe 1 teaspoon. So rosemary is excellent for any sort of mental health, you know, brain fog, anything like that. And it also is anti-inflammatory, and it's very high in antioxidants to help with preventing or mitigating oxidative stress. Remember all those free radicals that go in your body? Rosemary helps with that. All right, and it's also great for circulation. So I'm just going to pulse this, and then we'll plate it afterwards, okay? All right, we're not over blending. Okay, that's about it for this. Let's taste it now. The rosemary is well and it is really good. And if you let it sit for a little bit before you eat it, you may have, if you let it sit for a little bit, it will get room temperature. But if you want, you can have it this way, or you can let it sit and then warm it back up in your dehydrator. But I think I'm going to have, I mean, it's too late right now. But it's great. So let's plate it now. Just clean up here a little bit. And we shall plate this now. Get my little plate here. All right, nice soup cup. And we will plate the soup. Beautiful, creamy, 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 creamy. Oh my goodness, look at that. And it's perfect for my jug. All right, this is breakfast, okay? This is a beautiful, creamy breakfast soup. All right. That is some cream. Oh, we tasted with that. We don't want that. So I'm going to, these are some black sesame seeds. I'm just going to put them in here. Oh, this is so cool. I love it. Hey. And let's see what we can do with the all right. Oh boy. All right. This is it. And I'm going to bring it there. I didn't put in my ends, but that's okay. We'll do it another time. So let me show you the warm, raw soup. It's beautifully plated. I don't think you can see it, but let me see if I can show it to you here. It is nice and creamy. Yeah. See how it looks? This is the soup. Beautiful, nice and creamy soup. All right. So I want to say thank you so much for joining me. And I am going to, so this is warm. It is not cold, and it can be enjoyed without causing distress on your digestive system. And I hope you learned about the benefits of rosemary and cauliflower and how to prepare the cauliflower in a way that it maintains its integrity to help with signaling your detoxification processes within the body. And also, I forgot to tell you, it also helps with hormonal balancing. So keep the food in its natural form, learn how to prepare it in a way that is really healing and helpful to your body. And God will bless you. All right. So thanks for viewing. Bye for now.